Hey guys, Bugcat7 here. Okay, it is Thursday, January 11th, 2024, and I want to thank you for visiting the Stonewall Research 2 channel here on YouTube. I really do appreciate it. Alright guys, well, as you know, one of the main topics on my channel is the Giants, and I've covered so many of these accounts from the newspapers on my other channel through Chris Leslie's Greater Ancestors website. And Chris and I sort of share similar ideas about the giant humanoids of the past. And he has a lot of sort of positive attribution about them in his mind. So, and the conclusions that I've drawn, and among many of the conclusions that I've drawn about the Giants, was often about how they were responsible for building these megalithic structures of the past, and were the originators of it, and sort of passed that knowledge down to us through the very many stories about the Giants sort of, gifting us with many different skills and, adding to the culture in so many ways. So, let me read this article to you. This is one of the ones that I did not cover on my other channel in the playlist there of all the Giants were reported in every single state in the United States. It seems to be the preponderance of stories about unearthing giant skeletons from the past seem to be mostly in North America than anywhere else around the world. There's plenty of stories from around the world, but the most seem to be in North America. So in any case, let me just, for brevity's sake, because I got a new work schedule and I'm working like 80 hours a week, so I'm exhausted doing this video for you, but I really don't have any other time to do it for you. So let me read the article to you for you. It brings up a number of things. It seems to be, sort of, standard fare as far as the, accounts of the unearthing of the Giants goes, because there's so many stories like this in the accounts, and I read all of them practically. So I think my conclusions are pretty sound, and whenever I do refer to anything, I'm referring to the actual accounts or book reference material, whatever it may be. It's not solely my conclusions, but I've drawn my own conclusions about it, and one of them, and I'm here to convince you, okay, that the giant humanoids were the ones who were responsible for the megalithic constructions in the past and for the giant earthworks in the Americas as well. So, because this is what knowledge they possessed, this was what skills they were mainly known for in the past, when there was a far different past, one more like Tolkien's, non-fiction past of a Tolkienish sort of, Hobbit world. That's what it seems to be. If you want to think about these accounts and the different, constructions associated with it. So I'm often referring to this. So what can corroborate this? Well, I've covered any number of things, and I'm going to continue to do those things. So this article seems to support that idea. So just let me read it to you, and whatever points are made in here that I want to cover and that relate to any other thing that I might talk about on my channel that not many people seem to be interested in, but there's a bias against archaeology and anthropology in the Americas, and C.W. Saram wrote about it in his book, The First American, about the suppressed archaeology in the Americas, and that was in 1971. It wasn't all that long ago. And, and how, fudged up it is. So let me just read this account, please. It's a 20th century account from Arizona. This is one I didn't cover again. And it's from the 20th century, 1911. And just listen to what's being said in here, and I'll point out the different things here that I find are, relative and pertinent to what I discuss about on my other channel and this channel. So this is from Juniper, Arizona, so it's twice the size. Skeleton, twice the size. Skeleton of giant found at Juniper. One of the most wonderful discoveries of prehistoric life that has ever been made in Arizona was reported yesterday by Peter Marks of Juniper and corroborated by E.S. Clark, attorney, which reveals the existence of a race of people that is not generally accredited to the primitive era in the huge proportions of a skeleton that is now in the possession of Mr. Marks. It's interesting how they employed an attorney, just to, make sure that, it was a valid, find, I guess, because, this is after, all the hoaxes and all that kind of stuff from around the country. So, they have to, validate it by, having an attorney present, I guess, to view it or whatever. So, just interesting how they had that there. In detailing what was discovered by mere accident on his farm early in the present week, Mr. Marks gave the following interesting account of his discovery. The bones of this monstrous human may have represented a race of men or a single individual. At any rate, the skeleton of the man in my possession is sufficiently complete so that the dimensions, which are astounding, may be accurately ascertained, and so far as the present generation is to be considered, from what I can learn, there is no comparison to be formed. In the first place, the skull is of such an abnormal size that if the average man of this day placed it over his head, he still could find room to move it backward and forward, or up and down with ease, without disturbing his natural position. From measurements taken of this skull, a number 10 hat would be required to fit it. That's an awfully big hat. I think my head is like Pee-wee. It's like, 6 or something like that, like a small head. The teeth, several of which are still embedded in the jawbone, substantiate the immense size of the head. They are fully 1/3 larger than those of the men of today, and present more the appearance of tusks than of molars of the human family. Other dimensions of the head reveal similar evidences in harmony with the above. As to the bones, there is no disputing the fact that the owner was symmetrically formed, of immense size and Herculean strength. The thigh and lower limbs indicate at least twice the size of the average man of today. I made the discovery by mere accident. My attention some weeks ago was directed to that part of the farm by floodwaters passing through, cutting a ditch. And this was very common in a lot of the accounts of unearthing of the giants here in the Americas. Often there's, the river overflowed, or it was, extremely intense, and, cut away at a hill or a mound or a burial area. Some of these things were buried without mounds or anything like that, but, many of them were. But what's interesting is many of them were buried either in sand or gravel. That's very interesting, as far as, stone masonry is concerned. Okay, but this is very common among the accounts of the giants of being washed out, and the owner of the land finding it there or whatever. Very many of them were often that way. I wonder if that still happens. But see, if they're anything like my uncle, and the previous house that I lived in a different town here, was a historic house and part of Harriet Tubman's Underground Railroad. There were brick catacombs in the basement that had something to do with it. So it was like a historic house in that respect or whatever. And my uncle and aunt owned it. And we had to do some work to prop up the floor there because the house was almost 200 years old. And while digging around in there, I mentioned that, what if we found bones here or anything like that? And he said, if we do, don't tell anybody, because like everything's got to stop. It'll be like thrown out of the house, and the historical people come down there and confiscate, and so they could do research or whatever it is. So, but this is common among people like real estate developers or whatever. If they find anything of sort of indigenous or whatever, they don't tell anybody, because then the project's going to stop, you see? So they don't want that. So it's rather unfortunate, but this is how the business is done. Otherwise, if they do report something, whatever, they're done. So, and they know that. So if they tell everybody that, hey, you want a job, and don't say anything. And they don't, because people don't care that much about it. You see, it's no interest to them. So anyway, okay, a few bones were found on the surface, but my impression at the time was centered to the belief that they were those of some animal that had been killed. I dug into the bank that was exposed by the rushing waters, and when a distance of about 3 feet in depth had been reached, the skull was found. The bones that were strewn around for a few feet with those found in the ground were put together with the above result. The skeleton is only partially complete, but there is enough in evidence to show that it was that of a giant. After making this discovery, my observations were continued when metallic arrowheads and spears, stone hooks to hold garments together, a plumb bob of stone 2 inches in diameter and tapering to a point, stone axes and butcher knives, pottery of modern and primitive manufacture, and other articles were dug up. Nearby was evidently an old fort. The walls were built of immense boulders, indicating that persons of great strength performed the work. Okay, everything that was just said just now, okay, is of interest to me. Okay, so the walls were built of immense boulders, indicating that persons of great strength performed the work. Okay, so here's somebody else whose simple observation of this stone wall, which is in Arizona, okay, there's stone walls all over the United States, and some of them are megalithic size, okay, and here's one of them, okay. So, and the observation was that persons of great strength performed the work, okay, implying that these giant humanoids may have been the ones that did this work. Well, yeah, okay, again, just with simple observation and the concomitant, skeletal remains nearby, etc. Who knows what else was around in this area and never found or never gonna be found or whatever. So, and also metallic arrowheads and spears. Okay, so that's very interesting, since the majority of arrowheads and spears to be found in the Americas was of a stone flake variety. Okay, not many of them were metal. Okay, and often they talk about how they made these things through annealing, because they didn't have any sort of casting methods, etc., etc. Well, that's not true, okay? And I've covered a very scholarly article on my other channel about metal casting in the Americas, and not me. I covered this scholarly article, which was very, very in depth and had many different facets to it. And I covered it on my channel. If you do search for metal casting in the Americas, okay, you're going to come up with these YouTube results here, okay? And the very first one, because it's the only one, nobody's covering this or has any interest in it. And here is some of the bias that I think is, because who wouldn't be interested in this? Okay, this is metal casting tech of ancient North American giants, okay? Because many of these spearheads and arrowheads were huge, okay? And they were cast, you see? And nobody's covering this on YouTube at all, except for me at my other channel, okay? So my interest in this would be whether they were annealed or cast, okay, because we have evidence of casting which shows a very advanced metallurgy for peoples that weren't considered to be doing this, So is this another one of the skills that, the giant humanoids brought to the indigenous people here in North America, similar to that of the Bell Beaker people in Europe, because that's what they did over there, okay? And in C.W. Ceram's book, they can make flint stones in no time at all. So, it's hard to say which was better, but I covered this on this video here, that they had these casting methods in the Americas. So is that what we're talking about here? Or is this just another thing that the giant humanoids brought with them? Okay, so again, just of interest to me is this, what's being said here, and about how, people of great strength must have performed the work to build this giant stone wall. And again, there's stone walls all over North America, and I had ambush, and people know my name. I mean, I probably would have more subscribers if I had people like CFS, and Chuck really enjoyed watching videos on my channel, especially some of the stuff that he sort of missed or overlooked that I covered on my channel, that he had mentioned several times on his channel. I got a lot of subscribers through Chuck and through people like Harry Hubbard and other people, so I was lucky in that respect. But he's just somebody else whose perception is that the giant humanoids of the past were the ones building these stone walls. And again, Michael Tellinger said that, and again, all these people from Megalithomania know who I am, because I ambushed Michael Tellinger on his channel. He talks about giants and mud fossils and stuff like that down there in South Africa, and these stone circles, and how it's the largest area of ancient man-made stone structures anywhere in the world. And it's not. He keeps saying that when he knows perfectly well of Jim Vieira's work and Hugh Newman's work and Barbara DeLong, who made the video Secret in Stone that was presented at Megalithomania. Okay, you have the whole section of North America, especially northeastern North America, filled with hundreds of thousands of miles of stone walls and all sorts of other strange stone constructions and chambers and everything else, and somehow it's just people are just not so interested in that at all, even because they think it's all colonists and settlers, like the stupid mainstream story goes, which is a bunch of nonsense. Okay, other than that, some settlers and colonists did build stone walls, some real nice ones. Okay, the ones we're talking about look nothing like those. Okay, they're a different variety. Okay. Okay, and in some cases they have effigies in them, and many of them have that serpent effigy in them, as my research shows on my other channel. All right, so again, just more supporting evidence for my conclusion about the giants. One of my conclusions about the giants of the ancient past was that they were responsible for building all these megalithic things of the past. Okay, they show Egyptians, in the building of the pyramids, all the officials look a giant size, and the regular people, all look small. Again, this dynamic going on, like the, Adena and the Hopewell, and what the Bell Beaker people had going on over there, as we know that they did through research on my channel. Okay. Some similar sort of dynamic was going on with the ancient Egyptian people before these giant-sized people were either genocided, killed off, died off, because they really were compatible for a different gravity, the gravity that was ever changing in the past, from the dinosaurs on down. Okay, because the dinosaurs couldn't exist in our gravity today. It would be impossible. But some interesting points there made in this article from 20th century, and about walls, stone walls being built there, megalithic walls being built there by individuals with great strength, persons of great strength. I've been the owner of that tract of land for 41 years and have resided there continuously. That section of the farm has never been cultivated to my knowledge, or anyone else in that country. No other human frame has been found, although I intend to continue digging. The relic will be kept in my possession, as I consider it a great curiosity. Mr. Clark has seen the skeleton visiting the valley after I made the discovery. So that's the lawyer there that he brought in to validate his findings there, which, I guess at that point had to be done, because otherwise, there's all these hoaxes going on and whatnot in the past there, like the Cardiff giant that started it all, which I cover on my channel, and it's a complete baloney story from start to finish. Okay, the official story, the finding out that it was hosted, all on purpose to sort of dispel the notion that any of these giant humanoids lived in the past, despite the fact that we know now for a fact that Adena, the skeletons were covered. They know there are two different people, the Hopewell and Adena, who live together. Okay, and the Adena just have a totally different physiology than us, and probably weren't human. Just a different type of humanoid that to some level is compatible, from average sized male to female, large size female. Only way that it could be. It couldn't be the other way around, or it very seldom could be the other way around, in my opinion. Again, from my research, the conclusions I draw from my research. So in any case, guys, you have some metallurgy here with these ancient people going on, whether it's the annealing of metals to form into spearheads and arrowheads. Okay, but I covered on my channel, on my other channel, the metal casting tech of the ancient North American giants. Okay, casting, not annealing. Okay, that requires some far greater skill level than just annealing and making flint type arrowheads and spearheads, which many of them they find are just gigantic size, especially here in New York State. All giant size, like so huge that no average person could use these implements, effectively, because they're just too large to handle. Giant knives, flint knives, and giant harpoons. Again, not spears. They're found with harpoons again and again. William A. Ritchie, okay, New York State, official New York State archaeologist of the past. Okay, I read to you his work on this channel. Okay, that's this is what difference between me and some of the other researchers who, mention some scant research as rather specious or whatever, and make up whole stories about whatever it is that they're having tours on and all kind of stuff like that. Okay, all I want to do is show you whatever sort of mainstream research that there is and how it supports all of my arguments for what I discuss on my channel. Okay, it's seldom ever my own opinion, but my conclusions are my own opinion, but that's just me. All right, so I find it difficult to believe that people are so advanced and gifting us with all these things are also cannibals too. Okay, that story had to come later on, and when the past was forgotten after many catastrophes and cataclysms that were going on in this planet, and we'll be lucky if it doesn't happen again in our lifetimes. All right, this is things going on in the universe we just don't know anything about. But in any case, guys, think about these accounts and how they relate to the giant humanoids and what their skill levels were and what they were doing. Okay, building with stone, working metallurgy of some variety, probably casting. Okay, again, they find all these places like Galena Canyon, for instance, and other places in North America where there's evidence of metallurgy going on with ancient peoples. So many of these gonna harken back to the giant humanoids that were dug up all over the place in the Americas in the past. Okay, and here's just another account for you right here from Arizona, Juniper, Arizona. All right, guys, so anyway, think about it. I want to cover more of these, because they're just so fascinating to me, and they mention all these things that just reinforce my conclusions about the giant humanoids of the past. All right, so anyway, guys, hope you enjoyed that. Please hit the like button, and please do subscribe if you like what you hear. And Bugcat7 is signing out. Peace.